$25,000 because that amount does not have to be repaid, and the rest will be considered in the loan application. For loans under 25,000, no collateral, but over 25,000, you got to pledge available collateral. And this can, you can have, even if you have a loan, an existing SBA disaster loan, maybe from one of the hurricanes in 2017, you can still qualify for an EIDL loan for this COVID-19 disaster, but you can't consolidate both loans. I'm just going to go ahead a little bit more in terms of some of the payroll protection program updates. And this came through largely through the Flexibility Act, which was designed to make it more user-friendly and more flexible for businesses to use the PPP funds. So the maturity date for loans made before June 5th, that maturity date initially was 2 years. For loans made after June 5th, the maturity date is 5 years. However, the lender and the borrower may mutually agree if you took your loan before June 5th, as long as there is a mutual agreement between the lender and the borrower, that loan taken before June 5th may be extended to up to 5 years. The deferral period for all of the loans, whether before or after June 5th, is 10 months. The loan forgiveness covered period is 24 weeks beginning on the date that your PPP loan was disbursed. And disbursed means the day the money showed up in your account from your lender. However, if a loan was made before June 5th, you may elect to have your loan forgiveness period, covered period, be the 8 weeks, because originally those loans were just done for 8 weeks of payroll. And if you're in your 7th week, you may not want to switch to a 24-week period. You may say, you know what, I use the loans, let me apply for forgiveness and get this, get the forgiveness application going. So you don't have to extend it to 24 weeks if you took that loan before June 5th. In terms of loan forgiveness, the percent proceeds that must be used for payroll costs is now 60%. Minimum percent is 60% to payroll expenses. And the percent proceeds that may be used for other expenses, rent, utilities, and mortgage, that increased to 40%. So again, just think minimum of 60% on payroll expenses, maximum of 40% on other expenses. And if you want to use 100% on payroll expenses, that's perfectly okay. Full forgiveness, it can be, the PPP loan can be forgiven in part or in whole, and that's, you're looking at the principal and any accrued interest, if you follow the guidelines of the loan. So if you spent at least 60% on payroll costs, and then there are a couple different things that they will look at. If you maintained your employee and compensation levels, and if you couldn't because of some different safeguards, and there are some safeguards existing in the documentation that's too much to cover, but we can question around it, then you may be eligible for forgiveness, even if you could not hire the amount of employees you had before COVID and so on. And then and you spend no more of 40% on loan proceeds on non-payroll costs. And these costs that you're spending it on had to be in place before February 15th. So it's not new rent since you took it on. It's all rent, mortgage interest, and utilities that were existing before February 15th. The eligibility, just a little change there in terms of for non-financial felonies, the eligibility look-back period was reduced from 5 years to 1 year to allow more people who may have had something on their record access to the PPP loan. However, for felonies, financial felonies, to allow more people who may... Okay, we're just getting a little bit of feedback there. If we could mute everyone but the presenters. For financial felonies involving fraud, bribery, embezzlement, or a false statement in a loan application, that look-back period remains 5 years. When we look at, this is hot off the presses, the transparency, and all you need to know is that The average of the loan that we have seen nationwide is about $112,000. So for the majority of people who've taken out PPP loans, that is loans below $150,000, the totals will be released, aggregated by the zip codes, by industry, by business type, and by various demographic categories. In the interest of transparency, SBA will disclose the business names, addresses, NAIC codes, zip codes, business type, demographic data, and so on from loans, PPP loans above 150,000 all the way up to $10 million. So that is a new guideline in terms of the transparency around the PPP loans nationwide. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Wayne now, who will take us through uses for the EIDL loan, and we'll go forward a little bit with that. Take it away, Wayne.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Great work. This is a new slide that we didn't have last week, but we wanted to put that in because we've seen a surge in people who have recently been approved for their economic injury disaster loans and have been asking how they can spend that. So I want to spend a little bit of time, just talking about the difference between a physical disaster home loan, which many of you may have received through Hurricanes Irma and Maria, a physical disaster business loan, which could also have been received during that time, and the economic injury disaster loan. So those loans can be used, the ones that were not economic injury disaster loans can be used for a lot of things, to rebuild a house, to purchase equipment that was destroyed, all sorts of things. It's very flexible. The economic injury disaster loan is not used for those purposes. The primary purpose of an economic injury disaster loan is to help you get through a period where you suffered economic injury because of a disaster, in this case, the COVID-19 disaster. So it's expected to help replace some lost income that you did not have. It is not, and this is copied out of our SOP, it is not for purchasing new equipment, to expand your business, to purchase a new piece of property or a car. It is not intended to pay off your loans at a much lower interest rate. So if you had a loan with one of the lenders that was at 6 or 7% interest rate, for instance, and you all of a sudden got a $100,000 loan at 3.75, a lot of people think, oh, I just want to refinance all those loans. That is not an allowable expense. Now, another question has been asked is, how is SBA going to know? How are they going to follow up with that? I'm not sure, but I can assure you that if it comes out that a business did not follow the terms of an economic injury disaster loan, that would mean a bad thing for your business. At the very minimum, if it is found by the agency that a recipient of an economic injury disaster loan did not follow the terms of the loan and the agreement, then that business could be ineligible for receiving a disaster loan in the future. So if 5 years come from now and another hurricane hits and someone wants to get a physical disaster loan to help rebuild their home or other purposes, and it is found in their records that they did not follow the terms of previous disaster loans, and that could prevent you from receiving that assistance. So you don't want to do that. I am not sure what our Office of Disaster Assistance is sending everyone on the approval of a loan. You should receive paperwork that outlines all the terms of the loan, how the proceeds can be spent, and how they should not be spent. I would just be sure to read those very clearly before you spend those funds. And I also encourage you, if you are receiving both an economic injury disaster loan and a paycheck protection loan, I encourage you to put those in two separate accounts so that you can follow those expenditures very easy, especially when it comes time to get forgiven for your paycheck protection program loan. You don't want there to be any question as to how you spent those loans funds. You want it to be very simple and easy to follow for a lender to show how those funds were spent, and they were spent in the right way to receive forgiveness. So if you have any other questions about it, at the bottom of this slide is the 800 number, 1-800-659-2955, or you can also email our disaster customer service line and ask them questions. They are the full-time experts on economic injury disaster loans and can answer all your questions there. Next slide, please. like to give you just a general overview of where we stand right now in the Virgin Islands on these two programs. As of June 20th, at the end of last week, we've had over 16,000 PPP loans approved for $120 million, all for businesses just in the territory. And it's important to remember that that's $120 million that is forgivable. If spent the right way and used the right way, those are in the form of a grant, so to speak, for territory businesses. There's over 120 billion remaining, so we do not believe we're gonna have any problem having those funds for the last 8 days we have until June 30th. But after June 30th, we've been given no indication yet that that deadline is going to be extended. So if you are considering a PPP loan, I encourage you to apply now, reach out to your lender, and start that application process. Even if you're approved, you can always decline the loan if you don't want it. But after June 30th, if they don't extend that deadline, which we do not have any indication that they will, you will not be able to apply for that program. And again, that is a loan that is forgivable if you spend it on the right purposes in the loan. The average loan size nationwide is 112,000, and that's about the same that it is here in the territory as well. Now, on economic injury disaster loans, we've had over 1,250 advances dispersed at 4.6 million. And again, as Lisa mentioned, those advances do not have to be repaid. They go straight to the account information that you provide in the loan application. Even if you are subsequently denied for your economic injury disaster loan, you may keep that money, and that is yours to keep. You do not have to pay it back. We've had 933 loans so far, well, as of June 19th anyway, for just short of $57 million in the territory. Those are loans that are approved for businesses here in the territory at 3.75%, or if they're a nonprofit, 2.75% interest, with terms that are very generous at 30 years to pay that back. The question has come up, can you pay that back earlier? And of course you can. There's no penalty to pay back an EIDL loan early, but if you like, you can stretch those payments out over 30 years if you like. So, next slide, please. And this is not specifically related to economic injury disaster loans or the PPP program, but we wanted to share this with you. This is a webinar training that is available to all business owners in the Virgin Islands. This is usually restricted to what we call 8A businesses around the country, which must go through a great deal of vetting before they can obtain that certification, and then that allows them to get some free training. However, we've been able to secure this for every business within the Virgin Islands. No other territory or state can say that. Puerto Rico does not have open access to all these trainings. Some zip codes and areas do, but here the entire Virgin Islands is. The two primary courses they're offering is one called Responding to the Immediate Crisis, and then one called Staying Afloat Through the Crisis. And these are experts that they're bringing on to help you think through your business, help you think through strategic risk management, manage the changes, manage your cash flow, and how you stay afloat during this time. So I encourage you to check those out. And I'm not sure if those links are clickable for us to go through it. Let's see.
Verifying this link is, let's see. So I'm gonna. Why don't we go on and come, and come back to it.
We'll do it, okay. I think that was it. So the last part was, I was going to give you, the last slide gives you other resources to follow. The main run for us is sbdc.gov/coronavirus. We have a lot of information from there that you can go to. There's also a link for US Treasury, especially when it comes to the PPP program. All documents related to the PPP program, all the rules that govern that program are posted on the US Treasury site. And then we have the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center at visbdc.org. Highly encourage you to visit them. They post a lot of information from us, but also other entities that are helping businesses at this time. And then lastly, there's a site called www.usa.gov/coronavirus. That lists resources not only for businesses and resources from SBA, but from all federal agencies to help address many things, such as CDC guidance on how to open your business effectively, Department of Education guidance, also travel warnings, all sorts of things to help you think through your business. And then Lisa, I don't know if you can go to the slide for local assistance, the last one.
Yep, this is it. It's on.
Okay, it's just not coming up for me.
Okay, so let me just say resume share, and here we go. All right. Are we not seeing? Okay.
There we go.
Mhm.
Okay, this is the last slide for local assistance. Of course, this is information for Lisa and I. You can always reach us at our emails is the best way to reach us at this point. You can call 340-473-7945 or the 787 number if you wish. They ring to the same number, but emails are the best way to get in touch with us. However, I encourage you, if you are seeking assistance on how to fill out your loan, if you were denied for a loan, how to follow up with a request for reconsideration, all sorts of things, I suggest you work with the Small Business Development Center. They have full-time staff that are dedicated to helping business owners with these issues, plus working through all sorts of issues with your business. And they can spend a lot more time giving you hands-on assistance than we typically can. And with that, that's it. Like I said, we want to keep our part pretty short and reserve the most of the time during this for your questions and how we can answer those. So I see there are some that are already in here. So I'm going to start answering a few. One from Priscilla about filing for an EIDL loan. Looks like they're asking for information. They cannot confirm your business through a search, and they're asking for additional documents. I encourage you, Priscilla, and anyone, it seems like this is happening to other people as well, anyone who receives that kind of notice from our Office of Disaster Assistance that they're unable to verify your business or they need additional documents, there's nothing Lisa and I can help in that process. I encourage you to immediately call the 1-800-659-2955 number. Make sure you have your application number there. Ask them to look it up and be very specific about what they need to verify that you're a business. If you don't have, in this case, if you don't have any type of record to show that you are a business of any type, then it's going to be impossible to get an economic injury disaster loan. You'll have to find something, but I would call them at the 800 number and ask them specifically what you need and then how they get that to them, and they should be able to help it. They're very, they've been very responsive as the feedback that I've been getting, and you just give them what they need and they should be able to make a decision pretty quickly.
So Wayne, before you take any more questions, this is the login. Are you seeing it on the screen?
I am not.
No. Okay.
Yes, I see that.
You see somebody else sees it? Okay.
Yeah. Additional training resource.
Yes.
You say that? I got it.
Yes. So this is the weekly live webcast sessions.
Yes. Also.
So this was the training that we were speaking about. Oops. Come back up here. There we go. All right. Yeah, this was the training that we were speaking about. That you can enter as an 8A. Any business in the US Virgin Islands can enter and look for the trainings on the two trainings through June and July around COVID and bringing your business back up.
Lisa, I'm not able to see that screen, so all I can see is your PowerPoint slide. However, I will just say the prime reason for bringing that up, if other people can see the registration slide, is it is important to fill in there's two questions that are important to fill out so that you have eligibility. One is they will ask you what is your eligibility for this program? And it'll be a drop-down menu, and it'll say, I'm an 8A firm, or I am this type of firm. You will want to select that you are in a hub zone area, that you are a hub zone eligible firm. That will make sure that you are eligible for the business. You will also want to select under district office. There will not be an option for Virgin Islands. You'll want to select Puerto Rico. So under SBA district office, select Puerto Rico. And then under type of business, you're going to want to select that you are in an area that is a designated hub zone. And that will ensure that your eligibility will be there and you won't get kicked out.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right. So I'm back to help you with questions.
Okay, it looks like some are being answered here by via SBDC. Forgiveness period and requirement for a PPP for their PPP loan. So someone's asking about the forgiveness period. That forgiveness period can be up to 24 weeks for your PPP loan. So the calculation for the approval was based on 2.5 months of your average payroll. So you receive that loan. Once you receive it, from the date you receive it, you can spend 24 weeks to spend that on your payroll. You must spend at least 60% of it on payroll. You can certainly spend the whole 100% of it on payroll if you like. And in fact, since you have 24 weeks, I would suggest to make it very easy, just spend 100% of that on your payroll for your business. However, if you have a need to spend it on other sources as well, it just cannot be more than 40% of the loan spent on things such as rent and utilities for your business. Specific use for idle funds for taxi operators, car repairs, renew business license, etc. So expenses that you would normally have to incur in the course of your business are eligible for the idle loan. So for instance, yes, licensing of your business, car repairs, those types of things are all normal operations that you would have as part of your business and don't really constitute an expansion or some other extra expense. Same for debt. So like I said, if you had a loan with a bank, you cannot use that as a lump sum to refinance that debt, but you can certainly take your idle loan and make your monthly payments with an idle loan.
Debbie asks, is there any update as to when non-agricultural businesses will be able to apply for EIDL? And that was since last week, Monday, Debbie. So it's reopened to all businesses from last Monday through to December. Jackie wants to see slide 2 again. I will bring that up. Let's just go through some questions and then we'll bring it up. If the loan is over 25,000 and you don't want to have your home as collateral and your assets, okay, what other assets can you use as collateral? When you want to take that?
I'm sorry, what was that? Loans?
It's about if you don't want to use your home as collateral, but you want to get an idle loan of over $25,000. Are there any other assets you can use as collateral besides your home?
Sure. I don't know what assets you have as a business, but durable equipment, if you own a building as part of or land as part of your business, there can be other things. It does not have to be your personal home where you live.
Okay.
I do see some questions. I would tell people if you're sending me privately questions, I may or may not be able to get to them. I'm going to try to get to a couple here now, but if I'm the only one who can see them, I'm going to focus on the ones that are open to everybody to see. So one of the questions was about getting a loan through a bank, and a lender is saying that they require you to set up a checking account. If you do not believe you have time to set up a checking account to get your application in, you can talk to multiple lenders and just go with the lender that can get your PPP application in first. Because once a lender puts it in, then none of the other lenders can. So there are online lenders. There are many other lenders within the territory who can help get that fast if a lender is saying you must open up a checking account with them first. And I have lost my access to all the, okay, here's the chat. Okay.
Same here. We need, yeah.
portal is now open. I'm self-employed. I'm the only employee. How do I prove payroll in order to qualify for forgiveness? So if you prove payroll the same way you did to receive an approval for PPP. As an independent contractor, your payroll is your net revenue during the year. And your lender should have used that to receive your approval. And that would be the exact same that you use for forgiveness. So, and as a general rule of thumb, the information that if you receive the PPP loan, the information that you provided a lender to receive that approval should closely mirror the information that you provide later for forgiveness. The more that those documents diverge and they're different and they look a little bit weird, the more likely you may have trouble getting forgiveness. So try to make those look close to one another.
Wayne, I know that I have had this question in the past before, and I don't know if you could give a little bit more guidance. So there's a lot of self-employed people who say, I don't take any money for myself. I put it all back into the business. So there is income, but at the end of the day, I have very little that I show as net income. How does that affect the PPP loan process? If you're running, like, for example, if you report a loss, if you report zero, if you report a very, very small amount.
Right, so if you're reporting on your taxes that you have either a loss or no money because you're putting it all back in a business, that does help for your tax purposes, but that does not help in this situation. So you have to show it as income. They're looking at income for you as a business owner. So there's not much we can help with that.
The information on the agricultural business loan, the EIDL, is also for agricultural businesses and fishing interests. It's exactly the same process. So you can apply for an EIDL as an agricultural business, and those are being given, they were being given great priority earlier on, because I think, food security is one of the things that is utmost in the minds of the government. So, we encourage you to apply for an EIDL if you're an agricultural business. As an independent contractor, how do you report the PPP on taxes? I would say that it would be reported as income, because it's money that that you're receiving as income in the business for payroll, and it should be reported as the same in next year's taxes. Wayne, is that correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding, but I'm not a CPA, so I would talk to your accountant about that and look carefully for those rules, but that's my understanding, Lisa, yes.
Okay, if the 60% on the PPP payroll portion only lasts 8 weeks and the 40% extends longer, is there a penalty if for any reason there are layoffs prior to the 100% being spent? Well, the PPP was only eligible for, when they took it into consideration, payroll was only really for 8 weeks or 10 weeks at a maximum if you're using 100% for payroll. If you had to stretch that out for 24 weeks, you would have had to lay off some staff or had like a reduction in staff. So if the expenses, I think it's understood that if your business still isn't operational after the full payroll is extended and you absolutely have to lay off people, that would be understood, as long as you spent the money in the time frame that, yeah. Wayne, you want to take the next one? I'm trying to get rid of an email.
I don't see another one, but I do see one up higher. Someone is asking for a slide. I just want to confirm with Mary Jo, will these slides be available to all participants afterwards?
I know it's recorded live, but I don't, yeah.
Yes, we can share that.
Okay, thank you.
We'll share it on the VISBDC web Facebook page.
All right, thank you, Ted.
Are there any other questions that anyone wants to come on and ask or put in the chat? We still have some time.
So someone is asking, 2 businesses under their LLC, one business reflects a loss and the other business reflects a profit. How to handle the PPP request for the business that had a profit? The profitable business is a sole proprietorship. So yes, you should be able to go to your lender, give them the information for that business. and they should be able to request a guarantee from us accordingly. So I would work with your lender on that, but you should be fine requesting PPP loan for them.
But the profitable business, the business that's reflecting a loss would not be eligible for a PPP loan.
Right. I do not believe you can apply for a loan over the phone. You will have to go through the website. It should be working. I checked it again today. If you have trouble, perhaps it might be your computer or your internet access point. You might want to try another location.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, this is Idelisa from San Juan, Puerto Rico.
welcome.
I obtained my PPP loan before June 5th,
Okay,
and I was thinking of applying for the forgiveness in the 8th week, during the 8-week period. But since I reviewed your guideline this weekend, and I knew then that I can extend the forgiving period to 24 weeks, that I have to let the bank that lent me the money that I want to extend the forgiving period to 24 weeks, or I do not have to inform them.
you should always let them know. Yes, let them know. You have the choice between 8 weeks and 24, but you should let them know.
Okay, but they cannot change the other terms of if I already got the money, I just let them know that I want to change it to 24 weeks, but that doesn't mean any penalty for me.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Says if I suddenly acquire business income after getting the PPP and or the EIDL, do I have to pay back those program monies? So the loan does not say, it was, the loans are intended for negative impact from COVID-19. We want businesses to be rebounding. And so if you acquire business income after getting the PPP and or the EIDL, when you applied in good faith as being negatively impacted, the PPP, there's a difference. The PPP, the only portion that you have to pay back is the portion that is not forgivable. So you're going to go through, if you got the PPP and you applied up minimum 60% to payroll and so on, you can apply for forgiveness eligibility. The EIDL, the only portion that is you don't have to pay back is the advance, which is up to $10,000. And if you're a sole proprietor, it'll be like $1,000. But if you take the loan for EIDL, even if you get income after that, yes, you still have to pay back the program money.
Am I right to say once you receive a PPP loan, you have 10 weeks to spend it? No, you have longer. You have 24 weeks to spend it, if you like.
So the 10 weeks is really kind of like an estimation of the 2.5, like your monthly payroll multiplied by 2.5. That's where the 10-week, framework comes in. It gives you enough payroll to cover 10 weeks, but you have up to 24 weeks to use it.
And for PPP, I assume this is a question on when you're applying for PPP. Do you use gross or net payroll? You use gross. So you include all your payroll expenses, not just what they take home, but what you pay out for all your taxes, for healthcare, those types of things, and insurance. All your gross payroll expenses are included in your application for PPP.
Okay. I'm a self-employed therapist. Can I apply for both PPP and EIDL? I also own an agricultural business. Can I apply for both since my Social Security will be in different applications?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there are people who have multiple businesses, so you can apply for those.
Okay.
The
only thing, Wayne, I remember you were telling me in terms of the EIDL, if a business applies for EIDL loans or multiple businesses, if you have the multiple businesses that apply for an EIDL loan, but they have the same physical address, the only one that will be accepted on the application is the first one that you apply for. So just be aware, Francesca, that if you apply for two PPP loans, two EIDL loans, one for your therapy business and one for the agricultural business, but they're both listed under the same physical address, only one will succeed. The first one that you apply for will succeed.
That's a good point I'll bring up. Just to let everybody know, since we did see a surge of EIDL loans being processed, either approved or denied last week, I'd like to give the top 3 reasons why economic injury disaster loans have been receiving a denial. One is oftentimes there is just simply a clerical error in the application process. Someone put in the wrong number or just mistyped something, and then it makes it unverifiable in the loan process, and so they deny it. That can be easily fixed. You call the 800 number, they can pull up your application, they can identify if there's an error, they can fix it and get it right through the process. Second common reason is the physical location that Lisa was referring to. If someone has multiple businesses and they're using the same physical address, only one can get through the system, and that first one prevents the other ones from being processed. That can be fixed, however. Just call the 800 number, explain the situation, and they can override that within their system and have that loan application be looked at. Finally, the other reason is if a loan application does not meet the minimum credit threshold, which is very low. I'm not sure exactly what they're using right now. I think it might be around 5 something or maybe 600 as a credit score for the business. However, if you fall below the threshold, they cannot help. The best thing I can suggest is that if you are denied an economic injury disaster loan based on credit reasons alone, immediately make an appointment with the Small Business Development Center, bring in all your information about your business, and they can help you in 2 ways. One, they can help you look at your business and how you can survive during this time without an economic injury disaster loan, and help you think through resources. But they can also help you in the interim improve your credit score and do the things that are going to help your business perhaps get to that threshold before the economic injury disaster loan application deadline expires in December. So I would encourage you to do that.
Okay, Christine wants to know, for forgiveness, do you use net or gross payroll? Did you answer that one already? Okay. On the EIDL, when time comes to repay the loan, can you pay it off early by doubling up payments when you are able? Yes. Without penalty. Yes. Does taking unemployment affect the PPP loan? The PPP loan is not, it's not intended for employers or employees to double dip between the PPP loan and unemployment insurance. So if you had to lay off employees and, you know, have them go to unemployment and then you got the PPP loan, a condition of them coming back on and accepting PPP funds would be that they and you should inform the unemployment office that you are now using PPP funds to pay them, so that they're not double dipping, because that won't be looked upon favorably. Getting someone to speak to on 800 number is difficult. The service is, well, the 800 number, I think they're trying their best. I think because of the volume of loans that they're experiencing and the volume of calls that they're experiencing for EIDL, that it is a little trying. You know, if the 800 number is difficult, do try using the disaster customer service at SBA.gov. That way you can write, you can write clearly, and they can respond specifically to your questions, and then you have some, you have some written clarification.
Please certainly address that as well. Just to give some perspective, before EIDL application started, we had a couple hundred people working a call center. Clearly that was insufficient. We now have approximately 8,000 people working in our call center. But keep in mind, they were just all hired and trained within the past 30 days or so. A lot of them are doing a really great job, but it's a lot of it is new information for them. Also, the EIDL application portal was just opened up again last week. And so we had a surge of calls, and then there was a significant wait time. I expect that wait time is going to go down significantly this week. However, if you get through and you feel the person who's answering the phone is not able to answer your question, you can always ask to speak to a supervisor or to someone else. And they can often put you in touch with someone who may have more experience there at SBA. It's my understanding that the frontline people can answer most questions, but if they are unable to, it's elevated to someone who's been with SBA a little bit longer and perhaps may be able to answer your question. So.
Okay. Harriet says you get the advance from the EIDL first. Yes. And that goes, it's a deposit that goes right to the bank account that you put on the SBA.gov application, and then the balance. And how long between both? You'll get an email from EIDL asking you to open a portal to then verify the documents for the additional loan amount. And it depends on your responsiveness to their questions that will determine, I think, how long between the advance and the disbursement of the rest of the loan. All right, and so we're seeing different experiences with the call, the 800 number. We just ask you to be patient because, again, of the volume. Anna, your question or your comment did not come in. It came in symbols. So I don't know if you're online, if you'd like to come on and ask, or you want to try putting it in the chat again. Otherwise, we are at 5:49 and we still have good. If an EIDL application was filed in April, when will you hear about the status of the loan? Anytime now, in terms of that would have been in the first round that shut off mid-April, and they were coming to the end of the backlog last week, right, Wayne?
Yes, of course, unfortunately, the Office of Disaster Assistance doesn't report to us what they're doing, but it's my understanding that they worked through the backlog from April last week. And so if you applied back then, you should have received a response by now.
Okay. Chanel, depending on the forgiveness application, I'm assuming, and if I'm assuming wrong, put it in the chat. You mean the forgiveness application for the Paycheck Protection Program, and the lenders all have the forgiveness application. So you should first approach your lender, the lender whom you got the PPP loan through for their forgiveness application. If not, the forgiveness application is also on www.sba.gov. Yes, for PPP. I hope that answers your question. So go through your lender or get it on www.sba.gov, but primarily through your lender because sometimes there's a little tweak here and there depending on the lender.
I believe Anna may have her cat walking on the keyboard.
I know we can't see your questions again, but hopefully through the chat you've been able to get some other questions answered. Any other questions? 5:51 p.m. We still have some time. Get it all out because we'll be on not until next Monday again in terms of another one of these open forums. Same time, same place, next Monday, 5 to 6. And look out for the link on the VI SBDC Facebook page. And somebody asked if I could put back up slide number 2. So I think I will work on that. All right.
While you do that, a question was asked if you need a larger amount. We suggested last week you called ask. Did you get verification if it was possible? I did not. So if you hadn't called, I would call and ask about that. You should be able to request a higher amount. I don't know. No one has reported back to me that they've been requesting that and were approved for it or denied for it. So I couldn't tell you what the status of that is.
Okay, can I just,
I want to ask if you get an EIDL loan, can you also get a PPP loan? Yes, absolutely. One, I'm not sure if we emphasized it during our presentation, but one overlap with the EIDL loan that people should be aware of is that if you get an EIDL loan and you received an advance and you also received a PPP loan, when it comes time to apply for forgiveness, your forgiveness amount will be reduced by the advance amount that you received from an economic injury disaster loan. So, for example, if you had a business with more than 10 employees you should have received in an economic injury disaster loan application a $10,000 advance for that loan, and then received a loan later under economic injury disaster. If you received a PPP loan, and for ease of math, let's say it was $100,000, and you spent it all on payroll, and you went for forgiveness, and you applied for forgiveness, SBA will check to see if you also received an advance of $10,000. If you did, then they will reduce that amount of forgiveness. And so when you apply, you will be forgiven $90,000 of your $100,000 PPP loan because essentially they look at the advance as a $10,000 of free money that they put in your pocket that as a forgiven amount. So essentially 100% of your PPP loan amount is forgiven, but if you had an EIDL loan, part of that may come from your advance.
Okay. Are you seeing slide number 2 shared?
Yes.
Okay, so that was for the person who asked for slide number 2 to be put back up so that they can take, just keep an eye on it and see the differences between the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. One of the other things that that you should know, there is a large Spanish-speaking population in the US Virgin Islands as well, and French-speaking population. All of the information on sba.gov can be translated into Spanish, can be translated into French. There is even a Creole version that you can translate the documents into for easy access. Because we're also part of the Puerto Rico and it's Puerto Rico and USVI as one district office. For those who prefer to listen to this information, the Puerto Rico offices are transmitting a lot of the same information in Spanish. So if someone is more comfortable listening to it in Spanish, we encourage them to sign on to their website or to follow the Twitter account. And I'm just going to bring that up, the Twitter account. Let's see.
And while you're talking, Lisa, there was another question. I tried to get a buffer, but my lender denied it. Dana, I'm not sure what you mean by getting a buffer, but if that was before any changes to the loan program that were of last week, you might just want to reconnect with your lender. But I'm not sure what you mean by buffer, but if they know what you meant, then you might want to check with them to see if there were any changes that affected that.
Okay.
All right, we got 5 more minutes. If you have any questions about economic injury disaster loan or PPP or anything SBA. So we have many other programs we do around government contracting, technical support, other lending programs. You can ask us any question related to SBA.
You're welcome. Well, just until we see any other questions, Wayne and I would just like to again thank Ted, Mary Jo, and the team at VI SBDC for hosting this meeting and for being good partners. I mean, again, we encourage you to sign up as a client of SBDC and really let them help you with the technical resources, not just for this pandemic, but straight through, as I heard Ted say, from inception to exit strategy for your businesses. Yes, Ted? Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, we look forward to seeing you again next Monday. And, stay tuned. There are multiple resources, including, multiple resources where you'll be hearing us, press releases that we're sending out. And just remember that you can always send us an email if you have specific questions that you'd like to ask us on your case.
Lisa, may I say something real quick, please?
Sure.
There is a business survey online, both the SBDC website and the VI Economic Development Authority's website. This is a chance for small businesses' voices to be heard. Tell us how your business has been affected by COVID-19. You can click on the link through our website, EIDL's website as well, and it's also on our Facebook. So please, if you're a small business owner, look on those websites, Facebook link, click on and tell us about your business, how it's been affected. Now's your time to get your voice heard. So, and it expires, believe this Friday. So you have to take the survey before Friday. All right. Thank you all.
Anna, go to the SBA, the Puerto Rico district office, and you will see all of their webinars. And there is one at 10 a.m. tomorrow on the same area. There's actually, yeah, and 2 on Wednesday and 1 on Thursday. They're being very active. So, and again, the Twitter account is twitter.com/SBA_Puerto Rico. And you'll find we're advertising their programs as well there. You're welcome. De nada.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
And have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.